Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you the news that relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yeshua Hawkins. Well, in the news today, the Russian ambassador to Turkey has been shot and killed. We'll have those details, as well as the terrorist attack in Berlin that has left several dead and many more injured. But first, a real and present danger that might catch you off guard. Well, have you ever considered what life would be like if you had no electricity, or even a worse scenario, the entire United States power grid going down? Well, this is a situation that the government isn't talking much about, but has the potential to take place and would change civilization as we know it.
Oh, I bet. Well, just imagine for a moment if an EMP, that's an electromagnetic pulse, destroyed all electronics and transformers that power everything electric. That's anything with an on-off switch. Your refrigerator, washing machine, hot water heater, all your lights, electrical outlets, and everything you plug into them.
And that's just within your home and all your neighbors. But consider public services. Hospitals would be shut down due to nothing running in them. Stores wouldn't hold, or would hold just the dark, empty shelves, because they couldn't place orders to stock the food. And you would be left with only the cash you have on hand because the banks would be closed and you wouldn't be able to access any of your accounts. Well, one day life as you know it is the same. The next, everything has completely changed. All electricity would be off.
Now, the only light would be from the sun, but nothing working within your home. No refrigerator, so all your food would spoil. No running water to flush toilets or shower with. The only food available would be whatever is in your cupboards. Well, you might be alone or with some family members, but no one else can get to you. The world becomes increasingly dangerous as people are now hungry and desperate. You feel scared and helpless and don't know how you will survive.
Well, how could such a real-life catastrophic event like this occur? One threat that scientists are worried about is from solar flares. Now, they are currently watching the largest sunspot in nearly 25 years, which can send out flares that disrupt radio communications and navigation systems. Now, the flares produce the same amount of energy as 1 billion nuclear bombs.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's tremendous. Well, in an interview with Fox News, Frank Gaffney, the president of the Center for Security Policy, was asked what happens if a giant solar flare were to hit us. Now, while there's some speculation, he added, the general consensus among scientists is it's going to be very bad for an electrified society like ours.
He went on to explain, what we have to go by is an event that happened about 155 years ago when a similar-sized solar storm caused mass disruption of the only sort of quasi-electrified systems we had at the time, which were telegraph offices and wires. As a result, they caught on fire. This society, dependent as it is on electrification and systems that would be devastated by this kind of electric magnetic energy, would probably grind to a screeching halt. He added, the loss of life as a result would be in the tens, if not hundreds of millions.
Oh boy, mass confusion, mass chaos, I bet. So what are solar flares, you might ask, and what exactly are they capable of? Does the Earth have any defense against such amazing energy? Well, let's watch this video and see.
The energy given off by the sun. The SDO satellite records the ultraviolet radiation released by our star. Charged particles, fractions of atoms, protons, electrons, and neutrons are constantly thrown out, along with massive pulses of electromagnetic radiation. But occasionally, the sun throws out what's known as a coronal mass ejection. This supercomputer visualization shows a cloud of plasma millions of kilometers wide, racing towards the Earth. If these solar particles were free to hit the Earth's surface, they would do serious damage to any living thing, producing fatal mutations in their DNA. Fortunately, the Earth has a defense. An invisible force field called the magnetosphere surrounds our planet, visualized here in unprecedented detail. These images are generated by data from 5 magnetically tuned satellites. Called Themis, the network of spacecraft reveals the force field as it is constantly bombarded by the sun. The shape of the field is produced by the sheer force of the radiation hitting it. A nebulous teardrop 200,000 miles in diameter. As wave upon wave of solar particles strike the magnetosphere, most are deflected. But when a coronal mass ejection arrives, the charged particles peel open the magnetic field's outer layer. The particles are now free to rush in towards the planet. The Earth's inner magnetic field steers the radiation towards the poles, triggering one of nature's most remarkable sights. The northern and the southern lights. And here, we can see the Earth's second layer of defense. Giant ribbons of plasma stream downwards, encircling both the north and south poles. As they strike the upper atmosphere at extreme speed, they excite the molecules of air. The process makes the air molecules glow. The oxygen radiates red and green, the nitrogen blue. Energy that would otherwise mutate all life on Earth is dissipated by the upper atmosphere.
Interesting, Catan, that the Earth does have that kind of that invisible force field there that can protect itself against most of them. It's just the big ones that that get through.
Sure.
Well, for more details on the potential dangers of solar flares as well as other unnatural disasters, we turn now to our chief field correspondent, Larry McGee, for the story. Larry, what seems to be the biggest concern for the officials?
The impact on the economy is definitely a primary concern, with U.S. officials estimating the potential cost to be as much as $2.6 trillion. A report released by the National Academy of Sciences warned that power outages resulting from an extreme solar storm could linger for months and possibly continue for an even longer period in the event that the nation's transformers were damaged. According to reports, we have already endured a horrifyingly close call. In 2012, a solar storm reportedly came very close, but passed Earth's orbit without striking the planet. Predictions are that there is a 12% opportunity of a storm striking the planet by 2022, and Washington is thus organizing a contingency plan in preparation. Authorities say this could be one of the most severe unnatural disasters that the U.S. and other parts of the world have ever confronted. Officials report that the weather in space being out of control has the potential to produce substantial and detrimental effects on the nation's economic and social well-being. Experts believe that out-of-control space weather is a very real and present danger. The danger of unnatural disasters is not just a matter of near and outer space. The multitudes of life teeming within the earth are obviously suffering as well, the saddening symptoms of which can be easily seen in its many earthquakes. Here is a video providing a short history of our planet's tremors. The area north of Mexico City shook this week after a deadly fireworks blast that took the lives of 9 people and injured 70 others. Those figures are expected to worsen as more than 2,000 people were roaming the popular open-air market of San Pablito and Tultepec, attempting to stock up on fireworks for Christmas and New Year's celebrations. The damage from the explosions are reported to have extended to nearby homes. Safety officials are stated to have requested that citizens remain at least 3 miles from the scene as efforts to hose the market down continued. But ultimately, however, observers believe that firefighters will be left with little choice other than to let the fires of the famed holiday shopping district burn out. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan Jeff, back to you.
Well, it's a lot taking place on our Earth with these natural or unnatural disasters. It'll be interesting to see where we are in the next few years. Well, in a crowded Berlin Christmas market, a semi-trailer loaded with steel plowed into crowds of people, leaving at least 9 people dead and 50 hurt in its wake. The White House is calling this an apparent terrorist attack, and the driver has been shot dead in a shootout with Italian police during a routine traffic stop.
Last month, the State Department warned travelers that outdoor markets and holiday markets could come under attack. Now, as a result of these threats, security has tightened in the United States. At the location of that fatal attack, witnesses say that the truck jumped the curb, barreled into the crowd, and then just kept going. Now, an American journalist said she was just feet away when the attack occurred. She said it just looked like an accident, like the truck jumped the curb and was just going too fast and sort of just swerved into the market. But of course, they learned it wasn't just an accident.
Sure, yeah. One British tourist, Mike Fox, said the truck narrowly missed him. He spoke to some reporters recalling the night's events of how he actually spoke to people who had broken limbs that were laying on the ground, as well as seeing others covered in blood. Even at one point helping to extract trapped victims so they could be transported to the hospital. Some of the stalls at the market were flattened, and rescuers actually rushed to struggle to get victims trapped underneath the truck to safety. A Polish man was found dead in the truck at the scene when police arrived.
Now, the truck had Polish license plates and was registered to a Polish trucking company. German authorities haven't said if the attack was terrorist in nature, but it is eerily similar to the France attack last July when a truck tore through a holiday crowd and killed 86 people. Now, ISIS claimed responsibility for those attacks and urged its supporters to launch similar attacks elsewhere.
The Polish owner of the truck said that he believes the truck was stolen and hasn't heard from the driver since the afternoon. So far, German police are keeping quiet about the suspect's nationality.
Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that the country needs to reinforce the country's military nuclear potential, especially with projectiles that can penetrate existing and prospective anti-missile systems. Now, these words were spoken at a defense ministry meeting in Moscow. He also called for monitoring of and changes in the balance of power as well as the political military situation in the world.
Now, Putin also called on the Russian Defense Ministry to be ready for threats that could occur at the Russian border and quickly adapt plans to neutralize them.
In regards to Syria, he said that Syria has carried out several successful operations against militants thanks to Russian support.
Well, a little closer to home, the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has said that Washington must really strengthen and expand its nuclear capability until the world, quote, comes to its senses, end quote. These statements come a day after meeting with senior military commanders, including Vice Admiral James Searing, who heads the Missile Defense Agency.
Now, these statements are seen as a departure from President Obama's policy to push for the entire elimination of nuclear weapons. Currently, the U.S. has 7,100 nuclear warheads to Russia's 7,300. Now, the U.S. wants to strengthen its triad nuclear system consisting of ICBMs, nuclear submarines, and strategic bombers capable of carrying and launching nukes.
That's amazing. There are not even that many countries in the world, and there's over 14,000 nuclear weapons just between the two.
It's an incredible amount between the two of them.
That's unbelievable. Well, take a look at this following video as it shows the savage shooting death of a Russian ambassador while he was in Turkey. The shooting took place at an art gallery where he was giving a few words. Now, we must warn you, some of the footage may be upsetting to some, so viewer discretion is advised.
Well, those type of situations, Katan, are never going to help with this going back and forth between these nations.
That's right.
Well, Iran has announced a trilateral meeting of Iranian, Russian, and Turkish foreign ministers regarding Syria has been hastened due to the situation in Aleppo and will be held Tuesday in Moscow. Iran's foreign minister spokesman said that the evacuation of terrorists and the humanitarian situation will be on the agenda and that Iran is concerned about the displaced in Aleppo and other parts of Syria and the fragile situation in Aleppo.
Yes, and lastly, the U.S. has recently abstained from a UN Security Council vote, which was 14-0, which allowed the UN to condemn Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank of Jerusalem, which is deemed illegal construction under international law. The U.S. Ambassador Samantha Power said that settlements make it harder to negotiate a separate Palestinian state, which the administration believes is crucial to lasting peace.
And this on top of President Obama and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's icy relationship, due in part to Netanyahu's continued settlement building. Now, Netanyahu's office called the vote shameful and said that the U.S. failed to protect Israel. Israeli officials implored President-elect Donald Trump to intervene. Now, Trump posted in a tweet opposing the current president's actions, saying the resolution should be vetoed. He also called the Egyptian president who delayed the vote.
Well, after the vote, Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon said this vote will make a peace deal harder. White House officials insist that President Obama has been friend to Israel and referred to a recent $38 billion military aid package, which is the largest in U.S. history. And of course, Donald Trump tweeted after the vote that things in the UN will be different once he's in office. So we'll see how that relationship changes between the United States and Israel. But for now, we know that the sun isn't the only thing that's flaring up and preparing to throw the world into confusion, as we mentioned in some of these articles here. The intentions of mankind's heart and their hostile actions against their neighbors are flaring up as well, eventually leading to an all-out nuclear war. Well, I don't know if the U.S., Russia, or any other nuclear-equipped country will try to utilize all their nuclear weapons, but scientists agree on one thing. There will be no winners at the end of this thing, and all hope of life will be gone. Well, Yeshua Hawkins and the House of Yahweh has been teaching the laws of life and peace, and of course, that is the only hope for mankind at this time. To find out more, contact the House of Yahweh, and when you do, don't forget to request your free copies of the monthly newsletter and the Prophetic Word magazine.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at The House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them on any of their websites, www.yahweh.com, www.yisraelhawkins.com, or www.yahwehsbranch.com. You can also visit our website at www.ypnnews.com. For any emails, you can email at info@yahweh.com. For any international calls, please call the number on your screen. And once again, we'd like to remind you to go to www.yisraelsays.com and check out the Yisrael Says program to answer all your scriptural questions.
Well, the world may be a scary place to live, but Yisrael Hawkins has the solution of peace to calm you down and to bring you back to the original way of life as found in the Holy Scriptures. Up next, Yisrael Hawkins. For all of us here at YPN News, I'm Katana Alexander.
And I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
Thank you for watching.